Welcome to Ethos Effect Podcast.
Welcome to the Ethos Effect Podcast. After building and learning from failures,
We discovered our ethos and leveraged it
to scale, sell, and build again our seven-figure businesses.
whether you're starting out or leveling up.
This podcast is your source for innovation and lasting impact.
I'm Donovan Reikus with Ethos Benefits. This next series is going to be a little bit different than our typical podcast. I'm going to be interviewing some of the Ethos Benefits team. And that's because we recently were awarded the Benefits Pro Luminaries Award. That award is all about humanizing employee benefits, doing the day-to-day stuff, helping people navigate care, get it affordably as well. So without further ado, please enjoy these interviews and meet the Ethos team. Today, I'm joined with Meghan Anderson, who is one of our account executives at Ethos Benefits. Meghan, you also just hit your 2-year anniversary with us. So thank you.
Today.
Congratulations. Today, even though we told you it was, I think, 2 days ago and celebrated it then, but it's
Just
the
double
thought.
celebration.
It's the thought
so.
that counts, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's wrong. So I wanted to chat with you a little bit today about the things that you do in your role with Ethos Benefits. So when I'm explaining it to employers or plan sponsors, one of the things I'm kind of trying to do and segment in their mind is there's two different parts really to making this successful with employees and an employer, right? So we have the healthcare finance side. So that's what the employer's dealing with, the cost, trying to keep that sustainable, bring down those renewals. Super important. But then the other side, which is equally confusing in this country, is healthcare delivery. Your job as an account exec, you kind of bounce back and forth between both. You're working with the employer on not only healthcare finance, but also the administrative side. But then you're also working with their employees on healthcare delivery. Can you tell us a little bit about your role and how you see those two things and what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah. So I think that the biggest thing is just that there's a lot of, it's kind of the best of both worlds, in my opinion, where you're able to kind of get into, for me, I'm a little bit of a nerd and a people person. So I get to, handle the analytics along with the finances and things like that, but then also get to have kind of a service face as well, which is fun because you get to kind of see the impact of the financial decisions, right, in action with your employees. So it's a cool experience. I get to kind of be best of both worlds. So.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things, we kind of describe, and I think employers see as we go through this, like creating a successful healthcare plan, like doing it successfully on the healthcare finance side actually goes hand in hand with success in healthcare delivery. So, the typical common thought would be like, hey, if we're getting lower costs in our healthcare plan, that's usually a response of like passing that on to employees. And obviously the way we do things is very, very different. We're kind of working with employees to achieve better outcomes and then passing that savings on to them. So in honor of the Benefits Pro Luminary Award that we recently were awarded, and that award is really about humanizing healthcare benefits. And for us, that's down to every employee and whatever they need, and just kind of walking through that because that system is so complicated and confusing. But in honor of that award, what I wanted to do is just kind of go through some everyday examples of things that have happened, how we walk those employees and plan members through healthcare delivery and how we can help out and actually create a win-win, right? Like the cost is reduced or zero for the employee, but the employer is also seeing that same savings. So I know you brought a couple examples if you'd like to go through them.
Yeah, so one of the big ones that happened just recently is we had an employee who their son is on a medication that is a brand name medication and not available in any other generic versions. And it's a pretty expensive thing, not just for the employee at whatever their copay is, but also for the company as well. But this year we were able to implement through the pharmacy benefit manager an international source for some of these brand name drugs, and that was one of them. And it took a little bit of doing because the provider wasn't 100% on board with it. And so there was a lot of conversations that I had to have with the provider. But that's one of the things that we do, right? So we kind of act as an intermediary when the employees can't. I mean, they're not going to know exactly what to say or ask or all those things. So spent a lot of time doing that, and then was able to then, because of this, being able to internationally source this medication, we're able to now get it for the employee at zero cost, and then also save the plan itself a significant amount of money as well. So again, that's one of those situations where you get your data analytics and like all the good numbers, and then you also get a happy client, so happy member. So that's always really fun.
Well, what I love about those examples is like, in order for it to be successful, you're essentially like triaging the whole event, right? Because you're working with employee who has a need for the drug. In order to kind of work out the solution, you're also talking to their medical provider in order to say, hey, look, I have a way that this employee can get this drug at no cost, instead of paying, it's probably $150 to $250 a month for them, I'd imagine, at the pharmacy every month. So you're going from the healthcare plan we implemented to the employee, to their doctor, and then also to the pharmacy benefit manager to put this all together for them. The employee is now getting it at no cost, and the healthcare plan is saving 50 to 70% on that drug at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I think kind of going to that point, it's not always going to be just a super simple, like, let's just make this transition, right? So because of the process that we had to go through, we did have to get one fill stateside. And so, we were able to work through that. And then by the time that his next fill came up, we had transitioned to the international pharmacy. And then, I got a text from him and said like, hey, I just saw that this was actually a 3-month supply too. That's awesome. I'm so grateful. And I was like, yeah, it's a pretty cool deal. So I love those text messages. So.
Right. And for anybody wondering what we're talking about with international, do you want to describe that? What we're talking about with international pharmacy?
Yeah. So, when you kind of are able to take control and you opt to take control of your health plan, and do the customization and things that, we kind of preach about, is that part of that is you can implement different strategies like sourcing certain drugs internationally. The programs that we go through are going to be, sourcing from pharmacies, things like that are as strict or stricter than the US with their pharmacies and the FDA and all that jazz. They're coming from the exact same manufacturers, exact same packaging, all that stuff. So it's a super, neat way but because there's such a markup, and you can, I'm sure, plug some stuff for explaining about that, but there's such a markup on prescriptions in the United States, that these drugs were able to get for significantly cheaper. And it's such a benefit to the plan that the plan then can go and say to the employee, well, we'll get it for you for no cost.
Yep.
So
just for going through the trouble of filling out that form to have it mail ordered to their house instead of them running to the pharmacy.
And a 3-month supply, so it's pretty neat.
So it's neat, and it's an unfortunate state of affairs, isn't it? That like we're getting the exact same drug from Canada and having it shipped. Like that part's sad, but I think everybody knows that. So as an employer who's putting those dollars out, as an employee who's paying those dollars, it's like, well, if that's available, like, shouldn't I just be able to access that and not pay the most, right?
Yeah. It'd be nice if it were just super straightforward and simple across the board, but here we are.
You had a couple other examples. I have them here, but I'll let you kind of lead into them. What do you got?
Yeah. So, another example would be, we had, actually this was over Memorial Day weekend. I got a text while I was getting my nails done. So, I'm very dedicated to my job, but,
I don't even hear about these things, which I love. This is like the first time I'm hearing about it. And that's the Ethos team. They just knock stuff out, and I find out about it later. I'm like, that's amazing, because I remember the days it was 100% Chelsea and I doing all those things, and that was painful. So thank you for spreading the pain and taking some of that on.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not so bad when you share the load. So no, but I got a text message, another kind of similar situation where a member had their child needed a specific medication, and the formulary allowed for the pill version, not the inhaler version of this medication, which he's 5, 6 years old. He can't take a pill, right? So he needs the inhaler version. And so it took a little bit of doing. We were able to get several different options for him. We were able to either get an exception with the pharmacy benefit manager for that medication to get it covered at, because of the situation. Or we had, after discussions with the pharmacy and things like that, we were able to find several other alternatives that could have worked for his condition very well, and that were already covered in an inhaler version. And they actually did opt to go with one of the other medications, one of the generic medications that they were able to find. And so that was, again, savings for the plan,
Mm-hmm.
and savings for the employee, and then easier access for his son. So
Yeah, I mean, also access to care, right? It's on a holiday. Obviously, like insurance companies are not really available on that day, but Meghan was.
mm-hmm.
So she
Yeah.
kind of, again, worked through the situation, found an alternative, got it sourced, even on Labor Day, which is amazing. Labor Day or Memorial Day?
It was Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
No, not this past weekend.
Okay.
This was a May thing.
Okay, perfect. What else do you have?
Oh gosh. So let's see.
Putting you on the spot.
This was a fun one.
Okay.
Had an employee contact me. I got a text message that said, "Hey, I'm out of my Ozempic, and the pharmacy is out of it as well. I need help." And so my teammate Mickey and we spent all day, a full day, calling every pharmacy in Chicago to see who had his dosage in stock. This was back, when there was a huge shortage of the GLP-1s. And yeah, it took us all day, but we finally did find a Costco that had it in stock, and it actually wasn't that far from his house. But that's the type of thing that, it's like, again, first off, here's this person who is, got his own job to do, right? He can't spend all day calling pharmacies and things like that. And so that's where, me and my team can step in, and we can say, okay, we can make this happen, because, you need your dose. We'll make it happen. So it was fun.
I mean, that's pretty amazing, because obviously that has nothing to do with our roles traditionally in consulting with employers. Like, honestly, probably like not something any other agency would even think about helping out with. And it's also not an urgent drug, right? It's not like a life-saving drug. It's not like an inhaler for, you know what I mean? There's a lot of medications that are urgent and necessary and medically needed. And that's certainly not one of them, but you still went through it. If I remember, you guys called like 50, 60 pharmacies.
Yeah, it was in the 50s.
Yeah. And actually got that done. So that was a really cool one as well.
Yeah, that was fun. And, it kind of, when you're talking about that, it makes me think too of how, just some other agents that I've worked with have specifically said things like, well, we won't call a provider to help verify coverage or something like that, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, so you're just going to leave that up to the employee? Like, they don't know what they're doing, and that's our job. Like, that's what we're here for. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a result of doing some of the network replacement plans that we do. There's a lot of rigid rules and structures in some of the traditional healthcare plans, and a lot of that is not in anybody's best interest. Like, it's not in the employee's best interest. It's not in the employer's. So when we can kind of make those rules work for everybody, we can kind of assist and help get things done, where traditionally, if, it'd be like, no, these are the rules. We can't change them. That's the formulary. Don't even ask. Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I know you work, I mean, obviously you do work a lot with the employees directly, but I mean, I know you spend a lot of your time too with usually predominantly human resources, and a lot of it's on the technology and integration side. So whether you're integrating payroll into our benefits administration platform, carrier feeds, so we don't have to worry about doing any eligibility new hires terms, that kind of stuff. And then also, invoice auditing, right? So we went through a couple things recently. Why don't you share one of those kind of stories of something that we found working through that process, a little bit more on the healthcare finance or administrative side with the company?
Yeah, so I think that, just recently we have had a specific carrier that we've had some issues with, kind of ongoing, and it's one of those things where it does require constant kind of auditing and monitoring and things like that to make sure that specific file feeds that are supposed to be functioning, that we can see that the data is being sent over to the carrier and they're not processing it correctly or something along those lines. And we specifically had one just recently where an employee had a disability claim, and this employee was also an employee in New York, and so she was also it was a maternity claim, and so she also was eligible for the New York's paid family leave. And we had a situation where the enrollment for the paid family leave did not happen the way that it was supposed to, even though it's on a file feed. And it took, let's see what this, so this was May. So she just got her payment on August, I think 12th. So it was a very long process to get that straightened out, a lot of back and forth. And so now, at this point, we've developed a very rigid SOP with that carrier for how we're going to handle this client, so that we can make sure that all the expectations that we have as an agency, that the HR has, they're on their end, that all of those are going to be met, because you've said this a million times, but we don't work for the carrier, right? So I work for my client, and my job is to make sure that their employees are getting the services that they're paying for. She's paying for this. She's entitled to this. And if you are not able to deliver that the way that you are expected to, then it's my job to step in and say, no, like, we're going to make this happen the way it should. And so that was kind of the big example that we've had recently. And again, that took several months to kind of work through. But she got her payment, and which was a little after the fact, but better than nothing. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's a very detailed niche process, right? That's a very specific state law that doesn't carry over to many other states. Multi-state employer, right? So even just finding that in the first place is an awesome catch. But then working through that process, holding the insurance carrier responsible, right? Because to your point, like, we brought that insurance carrier in for the group, saying like, hey, I think this will be a good carrier. Rates look good, their products, we believe in their service, all that kind of stuff. But that stuff can break down. Everybody makes mistakes, companies change. And I think your point was well said, right? Like, we don't work for the insurance company, we're working for the client. And if our recommendation isn't going well, we're going to make sure we're putting in the processes in place of that carrier to fix that mistake.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that that's like something that too many people in this industry forget, that my client is my client. That is who who I'm working for. And I just want to make sure that they always know that I will go to bat for them. Because at the end of the day, it could be this carrier or this carrier or this carrier. Every carrier is going to mess up, right? Like, we live in a broken society, whatever, like, we're human. So every carrier is going to mess up. But, if my clients know and believe wholeheartedly that I will go to bat for them, that I will not back down, then, I think we're able to kind of keep a pretty good relationship going. So
yeah, I always feel like our relationship with insurance carriers are like we're like friendly adversaries, or like we're frenemies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're friendly, but like I'm keeping my eye on them, and they think like it's all good, like it's fun. I'm like, like
Yeah.
don't mess up.
Yeah. Well, we, it just kind of reminds me of, in my prior life before Ethos, I was very close to many of my sales reps at the carriers. So close.
They try hard. They bribe you, right? Dinner, drinks,
Yep.
tickets,
Oh
all
yeah.
kinds of stuff.
Trips to Chicago and like, yep.
Yeah, they try.
Yeah. So, and then to come to a place where now, like, that relationship is with the employer. I have developed great rapport with my clients at this point, and I think every single one of them would tell you that maybe toot my own horn a little bit here, but that they trust me implicitly with their issues. If something comes up, they know that it's going to get solved, and they know it's going to get solved as quickly as possible. So.
Well, I agree. And Meghan, I want to thank you and also honor you with that award from Benefits Pro Luminary for humanizing employee benefits. It's all in part of what the Ethos team does face to face, day to day with the employees, and those little issues that come up and how important, delicate they are and just helping employees in their time of need, right? It's really easy to just try and work with it on a big level, forget about those day to day, but that is the point, right? Mm-hmm. That is what we're actually doing. So thank you, and congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
Bye, Meghan.